Hello everyone. Good evening in India. Good morning from US side. Good afternoon in the Europe. Welcome to today's session, the workshop on courage. So let's start with just a 1 minute of silent meditation. So as you dive into the silence with the soothing music, bring your focus onto courage, the value that we all have within us. And as we will explore through this value in today's workshop, we will take home the awakened energy of courage that we can bring every moment and every aspect of our life. So with this thought, bring your focus onto the session. Welcome everyone. So today, again in these 2 hours, we will explore through courage, through experiential exercises, and also later in the last 1 hour, we'll have Sister Jenna joining us to take us through this value through and spiritual insight and meditation. So we'll start right away. Quickly, I'll show all those workshops that we started 2020 December, and so many 32 values we have covered, and today we are doing courage. And to start with our icebreaker, we'll watch this video and then we will ask you to share on the chat box what insight you will gain from the video, any feelings, thoughts, but that is, in brief, that you can write on the chat box. So let's dive into courage. Give a moment. Let's just double check what's happening. Yeah.
My name is Chris Norton. Last year was the longest year of my life. I played football for Luther College, October 16th, 2010. The ball is kicked. I sprint downfield. The return man veers right at me. Our bodies collide. The pile clears, but I don't.
Chris Norton is down as of right now.
Face down, motionless. Feels like nothing.
You just hope and pray that he's doing okay.
As they begin to wheel the stretcher off.
Doctors tell me I have a 3% chance of regaining movement below my neck. I am scared, frightened. October 17th, a day after the collision. I can wiggle my left arm, a small movement, but it's hope. A few days later, I'm doing shoulder exercises. Every moment I'm awake, I'm working. I question my determination, whether it will pay off. Should I quit? Nope. My family becomes my backbone, giving me faith. I spend 129 days at the Mayo Clinic and another 98 at the Ronald McDonald House. I return to campus in the fall. Remember me? What's up? September 10th, 2011. I return to my team as an honorary captain. I can't play, but I can do something far greater.
Just go out there and win.
Some people didn't believe in me, but my family did, my team did, and I did. Because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, there's only one thing you can do for what you believe in. Stand up.
That was the video on courage. I think it's a very good start. Anyone, any sharings you can put on the chat box, any insight on the video that you just watched? Or you can also unmute and speak if you want to share. I don't see any message on the chat box. I hope you all could watch the video.
Can I speak? Om Shanti.
Yes.
This is inner intoxication of success. And I can do it. Whether what may come in my body, I is the inner power. And I will prove it with my confidence that the courage is there with me. I'm not a loser. I'm a winner.
Yeah.
Om Shanti.
Confidence, inner intoxication. And now we see some messages on the chat box. So we need to believe in ourselves first. That is courage. So I think in Portuguese or Spanish, we have a determination, I think. Acreditar determinatio or something. Sorry for my pronunciation. So determination is courage. Anyone else? We are starting on the value of courage, allowing the mind to push the spirit to keep going. That is Alika says. Turning negative to positive in life. Daman says, turning negative to positive in life is courage, belief, and determination. If we want to do something, we have to have courage. That is Wilden says that. And I'm sure we all relate to this value because we live life with courage every moment in every situation. Then Ami says courage is the only weapon to defeat fear. Dr. Mehta says optimistic, toughness, and determination. Yeah, we can still get some more point from so many people. I hope you all could watch the video. So what is courage for you? So courage is to know where you belong, he says. Any more thoughts about courage? Courage means to be alive, Brother Manuel says. More to look at the hope after the final verdict. Courage is your innermost strength. Amy says that. Beautiful. Stay focused. Brother Anu says staying focused is courage. Gita Jumani sister says determination and have firm belief in yourself and God. Yes, Geeta Kumar, you want to speak? You can.
Yeah, according to me, हिंदी में बोलूंगी मैं कि डर के आगे जीत है. This is not only a film like an advertisement or something, but definitely to overcome when we overcome our fears, that is the point when we become courageous.
Beautiful. So when after fear, when you stand up there to face fear, then the courage is or success is there next. Thank you so much. That was really empowering. Right. So are there any more thoughts about courage? Otherwise, let's move on to our first exercise.
रेमा कुछ मीठा खिला दे.
I'll request everybody to yourself. So the very first exercise that we will go through to reflect in our own life, to recognize courage, its presence in our life, is a courageous act. And it's a beautiful picture. It says, I am possible. When we say it is impossible, I have to break it down to I am possible. It is possible. So never let's entertain the word impossible, but I'm possible. So for that, I will ask you all to reflect, take a minute to reflect upon an act of courage which you had demonstrated, that you showed the courage, and contemplate on that situation for a moment on how you had made that impossible act possible. We'll take 1 minute to reflect upon an act of courage from your own life where you have demonstrated courage and you had made the impossible act possible. So see how it happened for you. We'll take a moment for that minute.
ये आवाज नहीं आ रहा है.
Okay, so I hope you have caught that situation in your life where you have showed courage and you have made an impossible act possible. And it can be anything, situation at work, at home, or any simple situation that may seem simple, that you had to create a courageous thought and did it, walked that step of courage. So I hope you have connected with that. The next thing I would ask is to write down a few qualities that you demonstrated during that situation where you showed the courageous act. So which qualities did you use or showed during that courageous situation or act? So let's take another minute. So see the situation, contemplate what you did and what are the qualities you used in that situation. We would ask you to write it on your notebook, a notepad, and we will share afterwards, like you can unmute and speak up. So I hope you all have written down few qualities for the situation where you showed courage in your life. So we can share now. And we have Sister Apurva who would be writing down your sharings. And then we'll look through the list of qualities that you have. So you are welcome to put it on the chat box, but we would request to unmute and speak up. Anyone like to share the act of courage and the qualities they showed from their own life's experience? We would invite people who have not shared at all. You can unmute and speak up. Maybe Dr. Mehta will start with you. That will give courage to others to speak up. You have to unmute. Thank you.
As a child, I was afraid to walk alone at night, especially in the streets. So one day we had gone to a program at night. We used to have Navratri festival in those days. I had gone with my mother. I must have been about 8 or 10 years old. And my mother wanted to continue to see the program, and I was feeling tired, and I wanted to go back home. And my house was almost a mile away. And I had to walk through dark streets. It was almost past midnight. And that day I decided I'll walk back. And I walked back. Of course, at that time, one of the things that you kept on remembering him and developed that inner strength and courage that nothing is going to happen to me, and walked back. And this was a fear of darkness I overcome just by deciding to walk back alone and taking his help.
That is such a beautiful example. Yeah, taking his help and just creating that courageous thought to walk back and doing it. So that's amazing. And we can, I'm sure a lot of us can relate to it. Maybe we won or we didn't. So today we can see a child, what were that simple fears, or we cannot call it as a little fears, but it is big for us that we have overcome. Thank you so much, Dr. Mehta, for sharing that. That's a real life example of showing courage. So like that, I'm sure most of us have some situation in life where you have showed courage. So it's time to reflect on that and share with us. Alika, you want to speak? Yeah.
I'm Shanti's sister. About 2 years ago, I spent 19 days in a psychiatric hospital for anxiety and some things from the past, trauma. And today I have gotten the courage to speak my truth. And now I have a podcast about mental illness. And our podcast's whole purpose is to normalize the conversation to help others. And in 20 weeks, I think we've helped 30 people get to counseling, and about 7 people who were experiencing suicide ideation to intake. And so I used my courage to not be ashamed and destigmatize that narrative. And that's what we're doing.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, first of all, the courage to share here with us openly. I really, hats off to you for that. And taking forward that you didn't only conquer your anxiety, but you opened that podcast to help others. And in 20 weeks already, like, continued process of courage. You're amazing. Yeah,
Thank you.
that is the power of courage we all have, and you are such an example. Thank you so much for sharing, Alika.
Can I share briefly? I've already written that. The courage. Can I share? There's
Yes.
time. Okay.
Not a lot of time, because we'll give
Yeah, I know.
chance to others. Yeah.
Okay. I decided to take my trip to Vienna once I had a very severe knee injury. And everybody said, how can you go? Because you have to be operated. So I said, operation is physical. But my mind says, my inner power says, my God says that go ahead, because there are people waiting for you. So it was a spiritual kind of a talk that I had to give there. And I took medicines only painkillers, that too at times. But I gathered courage, which was coming from inside. I cannot be a loser. They all are waiting. I can't say that I can't come because I have a knee injury. I thought it would be very insulting to my own inner self. Why are you bothered about the injury? Go and heal others. Or maybe, that time I was working on a different healing process. So I took a flight and I reached there. And it was such a wonderful welcome. And they didn't even know that I had injury. Later, when they knew, they said it is a very severe case. And I even enjoyed sledging on the ice. Now, when I came back, it was an example to others that do not be afraid of little bit of illnesses or injuries that you have, because I was in a working this thing that time. And they would be all in the bedridden, in condition. I made them wake up, made them get up and walk. I said, you have a courage. You have a courage to do that. So that is how I did it. Thank you.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you.
Beautiful example. Yes, we have to cross that bridge of courage. Yes, Geeta sister, Geeta Kumar, you wanted to share? You had raised your hand.
Yeah, I would definitely like to share. Being a gynecologist, there are always moments in our professional career when you have to show courage, because the patient and the baby both are dependent on you. Most of the cases round up as normal. We can manage them with little, all the expertise we have. So not much courage is required there. It is our professional expertise that we have. It takes care of the whole process. But a few cases, I remember clearly one case where suddenly on the she was going in for normal delivery, and suddenly she started bleeding profusely. We have this sort of complication which we call intrapartum hemorrhage, and for this the treatment is just do immediate cesarean. Open up the abdomen, take out the baby, and the bleeding will stop. So that time my husband is also with me. He's a pediatrician. He said, no, patient is very serious. We don't have blood, better to refer to district hospital. I said, no, this patient will pass away if we go to district hospital. I have to operate on her and bring her out. So I immediately shifted her to my OT. did the cesarean, and the patient and the baby both were saved well in time. That was a time my heart was beating so fast, but somehow I gathered myself just thinking that I have to save both of them. So that was the thing that made me courageous and to do that thing.
Thank you for sharing that. I think we have to move on. There is some time calculation wrong maybe, so we would move on to the next exercise. I'm sure Apurva sister has the sharings, which we will share with the review materials later. So I will now move on to the next one. Thank you so much, Geeta sister, and everybody who has shared. So after this, I will pass it over to Brother Anuj for the next exercise. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much, Anu sister. So I'll share the screen myself. So apologies, I had a lot of problem with my system because I'm not joining from the city of Pune. I'm in Calcutta in some seva. So there's a problem with the system, but I'm sure you can hear me now clearly and the slides also are visible. So we are slightly running short of time today, but let's see, all in the divine drama plan. Let's see how much we can cover. So this next activity is a beautiful one, which has been inspired totally from Sister Denise's talk. I'm sure the ones who have attended will know about this. So I'll quickly explain you my insecurities. I mean, we feel that our courage is based on these 4 P's. I'll show you what the 4 P's are. And if my courage is based on these 4 P's, which I'll show you soon, then I'm really sitting on a very slippery floor, because actually basically that becomes an insecurity. So I'll just quickly show you what are these. The first one is power. If I feel I am courageous because I am in power, that power is giving me courage. Second is I'm in some position, at a very high position, that is giving me power. Third is if I'm very rich, and people feel that if you are rich, you have a lot of courage to do many things. And fourthly, the protection. Like if I have the false protection of something in life, I find it, I'm very courageous because of that. So you see, Sister Denise had shared these, that all these are basically very misleading. And if I am trying to develop courage on the basis of these 4 P's, then it's very, very damaging, or it's very difficult to develop courage because they are all very transient. Power I am in today, position I am in today, not tomorrow. I have money, but tomorrow I can be a pauper. And that protection which I feel maybe from my senior or from my, if I'm a sister, protection from my brother, from my parents, they may not be there. So let us take a few minutes in silence and reflect that, is my courage dependent on these 4 P's? And I think you can just choose any 1 or 2 of these, and we'll then discuss that how we can go further ahead without these 4 P's and try to make our courage independent of these 4 P's, right? So I'll just give you some time for reflection here. I'll try to see if the volume is okay. You may just choose 1 or 2 P's out of it. And then we'll discuss on that. And I would encourage new participants, those who haven't shared so far, in the chat box. Yes, so welcome back. So we are awaiting your responses in the chat box, or if someone wants to share, please go ahead and raise your hands. A slightly deep question to churn on today. Anyone? Okay, so you all can start sharing in the chat box if you're shy to speak. Okay, so maybe I can start asking people to share. Maybe Dr. Mehta is unmuted, so maybe he wants to share. Any of the, yeah.
I can share if you like, but I've shared it earlier, that's why.
Okay. Yeah, please do share. No problem. On the P's, any of the P's which you feel, yeah.
Okay. You know that I was a director of Brahma Kumari's Global Hospital in Mumbai, as well as a trustee of the trust. And it so happened that during COVID, the hospital was full of COVID patients, and I didn't go to the hospital for 6 months or so. I didn't go for 19 months, but 6 months, first 6 months were very, and at that point I came to know that there were some poor class 3 and 4 employees were removed from the hospital. I felt hurt because I felt that was not the way we respond to difficult situations. And at that point, though I had the power and the position both, I decided that I will resign, and I resigned both as a trustee as well as a director. I felt that if I have my conscience, I must stand by it. And that's one of those old Gandhian traits I had. You stand by the truth. So then it was courageous to leave both the position as well as a position in which I was able to do a lot of surgery as well as things at a very low cost to the people. So that's.
Thank you. Yeah. So, Brother Arun, you want to share something? You had unmuted before, yeah.
Yeah, I will try to be brief, surely. I was working in Kazakhstan, and I was the CFO of, and now I'm retired, but when I was working as a CFO, around 300 people were reporting to me. And we were having a very critical time, very much similar to what Dr. Ashok Mehta has just talked about. We were not paying the salaries when we took over. It was when the CIS was broken. And then the people were not getting the salary for 6 months. And then we also decided not to take the salary along with the local people, together with the, and it was for, we also continued along with them for more than 3 months together. So it was a joint decision with the management. We made that decision. So it is like this. So I wanted to share this. So it is a decision, joint decision for the conclusion for the common people as such. So it is not the power. I will not take my salary if I don't pay the salary to the people. So that's the kind of thing which we worked on. Yeah.
Okay. Good, thank you. So you all covered about power and position. So Brishpal Bhai is covering in the chat box, I think, about protection. So he's saying to feel secure, you have to be fearless, believe in yourself, faith in God, do your karma and leave rest to him. Actually, this activity is all you all are giving us your securities, which is very good that you all are secure about these things. But this activity is all about another way, in a different direction. That's fine. That different, it may be quite a deep activity, which we may not have time today to cover. It was about how I can be falsely protected, how I can be falsely feeling that, yes, I have so much of money and that is giving me courage. But when I suddenly become, I lose my money in, for example, in stock market, then I lose all my money. And then at that time, I feel, oh, that courage of me was just because of money, not on something solid. So this exercise is all about that, but it's okay. So we try to realize that all the protection which we feel we have from our seniors, as I mentioned before, is also very short-lived and temporary. And Sister Denise gave us a beautiful example that the only long-term protection is coming from the Supreme Divine, which Richpal Bhai has mentioned. And when we realize that we are this beautiful energy which can never be destroyed, then all the fear will go away and we'll be always courageous. Bhavya is saying it is also helpful to not become attached to things in order to be more secure. Exactly, that's what we are saying, Bhavya. So these are those 4 things which Sister Denise beautifully pointed out in the activity. So if anyone else, yeah, Geeta has written down again quite a few things. I am not in falsehood. I was to my relations as dependent. So she was again dependent on relatives and looking forward to support from all of them. But yes, that's very insecure because she felt that she was a puppet to their whims and fancies. And she entered into knowledge, and then she could give all the relations protection and support, giving rather than taking from them, because giving is more authoritative. You are in a position when you give, you are more secure yourself rather than when you're in the receiving mode. Okay, so this activity is a slightly difficult one, I do agree. So I think in the interest of time, we'll just move further. What we'll do is we'll just spend a minute in silence, and we just have around 6 minutes. So I won't be going in the meditative mode, but I'll just ask you to pause for a minute in silence. Since last, say around 30-35 minutes, you have been thinking, churning on courage. I'll share the screen, and I want you all to just get connected yourself to the Supreme Being, who is, as I said, the most important power in position, the most important property he can give you, and almost the supreme protection for all of us. And try to see that from tomorrow onwards, Sunday, Monday onwards, what can I do? What are the ways and means by which I can develop courage and document that, portray that in my behavior at workplace or home, by getting connected to the Supreme. So let's, in a very brief 1 minute, connect to the Supreme, the Almighty Authority, what we call in Hindi Sarva Shaktiman. And try to absorb all the power from him, Supreme Godfather. Fill ourselves with this beautiful virtue of courage within. And see in what way can I use this connection with the Supreme to document or portray that at my workplace in the form of courage. So just a very brief visualization which you all have done. And with this, let's move on to, as always, we try to do this action planning. That is from tomorrow onwards, as you move ahead in life. So from this workshop, what is the takeaway points? We try to call it action planning in our workshops. So am I really truly courageous at home or work? I tried to show you the false courage through the 4 P's, which I have churned on already. So in this activity now, reflect on a few ways or means by which you can incorporate in your daily routine things which will help you to experience true courage, right? Okay. Wonderful. So any quick sharings in the chat box, because we won't be able to take sharings from you orally in the interest of time. Apologies for that. So what can you do from tomorrow onwards, which will help you experience true courage? Any changes you want to make in your lifestyle? Anyone? You can start writing in the chat box. Okay, so identify the waste thoughts that pulls down the courageous movement. So work on your waste, right? So no waste policy, as Dadi Janki used to say, right? I think it's Brother Arun, yeah. Beautiful. Spend time in remembering God and meditating. Yes. So connect to the powerhouse of courage. Is anything else? And in the meantime, before I forget, also it's important that people who have joined new, and if you want to be a part of our workshops and talks, please write down your WhatsApp numbers and emails for us to keep in touch with you. Sister Anu Patel is saying, I live in the moment. Beautiful mindfulness. That is, every moment is as inevitable as it is, and act accordingly. And don't waste time in why and what. So beautiful. I think the gist is all about working on your waste. Zero waste. Alika, sister, beautiful sharing before as well. Keeping gratitude and remembrance. May I know which country are you joining from, Sister Alika? Because our program is truly international. So where are you joining from, Sister Alika? If you can maybe answer that, in the, or maybe unmute and speak, yeah. Hope you can unmute.
Oh, sorry. I'm from Chicago.
Okay, US. Okay, great, thanks. And we're so fortunate, I forgot, Sister Jenna has already joined us right from the beginning, but she's joining us from India. So she's all as an inspector in the background, seeing what are our sharings. Okay, beautiful sharings that keep gratitude and remembrance. That's what Alika is saying. Denny's sister from Vancouver is saying, be courageous in speaking to strangers, right? Brother Jonathan is saying, be a trustee and have that consciousness of an instrument. Baba is doing Baba, which means if someone doesn't know Baba is supreme, Baba is doing and he's responsible, almighty. Brother Varadrajan is saying, try to say no to unwanted things. Again, that's the waste, by being in remembrance of Almighty. So yes, all of you have your own ways and means to get connected to the Supreme and try to inculcate more and more courage. Sister Geeta is saying, be introverted, that will help you. Antarmukhi, we call in Hindi. I have nothing to lose, but link to the Supreme Soul and try to get after the meditation. Srimat, okay, so Srimat is the elevated direction. Right. So thank you all of you all for your sharings, and others have also started sharing their emails. So Sister Vidhi, you can just note it down. Okay. So as usual, I'll share my screen now. I'm sorry if you're feeling that I'm not allowing you to share more, because really there's a time crunch. So deep apologies for that, because all our workshops are really meant for you all to start churning and also share, so that you really become vocal about what you want to do. So, you know, Sister Denise was there last time with us. I'll just quickly take a few sharings, a very deep topic, deep churnings, a lot of churnings as well. I'll see how much I can cover. So Sister Denise has written a lot of books on value education, spirituality for the education wing of Raj Yoga Education and Research Foundation. So she used to strike this beautiful difference between what are values and virtues. I won't go in that, but what she said, that values are very priority specific. They are determined by different priorities of different people. So everyone will have their own value system. So there is nothing called universal values. But what is important, she said, is meditation is deep thinking about what is worth thinking about. What is my priority? This will determine what my core values are. And when she said about core values, the first value she said is about courage today. And she said that courage is needed more in the face of opposition. You know, when people are there to challenge you, to oppose you, that really actually motivates you to become more courageous. Because otherwise, if life is just going on like a smooth ride, no challenges in life, you really don't feel the need to develop courage. So courage is developed when you get opposition. And a beautiful example which she mentioned was being courageous about your own conviction, what you believe in, you should be courageous about doing that. And here she mentioned about a company, which was this you can download from the Netflix. This movie had come on Downfall. I don't want to go in the details of the movie, but this airliner company, I think the Boeing company it was, initially the company when it started producing those aircrafts, this top priority was safety. But what happened, a few crashes happened and there was some technical problems and quite a few people were dead, and they felt that it was because they were not good in their communication, and also the pilots were not trained for a new software. But what happened is they were least bothered about this, and their share market, in the share market, their shares actually started going up initially. So what happened, they were least bothered about what is happening to the people out there, the world, but they were just interested in profit. And once this attitude started seeping in the company, when they shifted the priority from safety to only profit, the downfall started. And that's what the example she gave. She mentioned also about the beautiful story of David and Goliath, that David was a tiny little man and Goliath was a very big man. You can find this in the Old Testament, I think chapter 3 or something. I don't know exactly where it's mentioned, but it's there in Bible. And it is all about that how David, being a small, tiny man, was able to defeat Goliath, because Goliath was just so arrogant and full of himself that what will this David do to me? But David, with that some instrument or something, which I don't know what to say in English, in Hindi we call gulli danda. So he just took a rubber and he threw a big pebble at him, and Goliath, who was a big giant-like structure, it hurt him immediately on the head and he fell down, and he was sort of that way he was losing and David was winning. And it was never in the mind that Goliath, who was such a big giant, would lose to David. So here it is that courage can come from your conviction, because David, though was a tiny man, but he had faith and conviction in himself so much that he could win. And very funnily, this quote, I'm sure all the Western would agree with this, when they come to India, and if you want to drive in India, it's really a big challenge and you need a lot of courage. But that courage should be with calmness as well, to make a right decision, to take where the turn has to be taken. So it's really a challenge to drive in some cities in India. You need courage, but along with being calm, make sure you don't lose your calm. Then here, along with courage, Sister Denise went into the laws of karma. So according to her, it was when laws of karma are broken, we have to face this the outcome or whatever we have done. At that point, we may not realize that why it's coming to me, but I have done something in the past. And it's only when a person is true to his integrity, then he can make decisions to move forward. And she quoted this example of integrity and honesty in relation to Dadi Prakashmani, who was a previous administrative head many years ago, from 1969 to 2007. She was the one who was highly integral, highly honest, and very courageous. And she took the organization to such a level that initially in 69, there was no center abroad out of India. But in 2007, there were several. Many people may be uncertain to step into the unknown, and that is the reason they're always fearful. But when you're aware of the law of karma, that whatever I do will come back to me, then you can even develop this attitude of courage. And here I would like to say that Sister Denise mentioned, as we did in the exercise on my insecurities. So what is insecurity? She basically said it's lack of courage. If I am fearful of something, I am insecure. So here she mentioned that life is like a road. When people put others in danger, they also put themselves in danger. So that's what, and this is all, we try to base our courage on these 4 P's, which is a very slippery road to go on. So we should be aware and beware of those things. And to develop all this courage within, it's an inner quality, we need to open the third eye. And the third eye of knowledge is the most valuable property. whereby in our Raj Yoga meditation course, we try to develop this understanding of who am I, the understanding of who is the divine, the supreme father of the soul. We understand the karmic philosophy in depth. We try to understand the deep secrets of what is karma, and also the knowledge of the cycle. That this entire time which we are going through is cyclic. Time is not linear, it is cyclic. Everything repeats. So if one has this knowledge, then one will be always protected, because as I mentioned, that if you know that you are the soul, the beautiful soul, the energy you are, which is indestructible, indivisible, eternal, no one can destroy you, then you'll always be protected. And that can only happen when your connection with the divine is very firm. I think here she gave an example that she had once a drowning experience when she was swimming in the ocean, in the rip current. She mentioned that the thought was that it is not the time to die yet, but when I face death, I will not be scared. So again, here it was the courage of her conviction that, oh, I can't die still. It's too early to die. And that courage of conviction was, she was able to face death over there. So here you are. Just a moment here. So here I would like to point out another thing, that when we practice meditation, we try to practice being alone, but not lonely. Again, very two beautiful English words, sound very similar, but when we say being alone means trying to practice solitude. And in Hindi, we call it ekant, which means actually not trying to get cut off from people. That is loneliness. But when we say alone means trying to practice that solitude, ekant, and ekant means in Hindi, ek ke ant mein jana, which means to go into the depths of the connection with the one. And that is what is practicing solitude or being alone. And here she mentioned that Dadi Prakashmani used to say, remember these 5 points. In Hindi, it's a very funny statement. We call them kele. Kele is basically banana fruit. But when we say in Hindi, alone means akela. So there are these 5 akele or 5 kele which we should eat, 5 bananas. What are those 5? That you have come in this world alone. You will be moving forward in your journey alone. You have to pass through challenges all by yourself, all alone. You will die alone, and you are alone. So sitting in silence and in solitude, remember only the one, and know that on this journey, you are all by yourself except for your connection with the divine. So once we start doing this practice of, as many people mentioned in the action planning about being introvert, trying to go inside, developing a beautiful connection with the self and with the divine, then developing courage becomes quite easy. Right? Okay. I'll go further down. We'll send you the PowerPoints. So I'll just take 1 or 2 questions because time is really flying away, and then I want to invite Sister Jenna for her talk. So there was a beautiful question that, can I develop courage without the connection with Supreme? Is it really necessary? So Sister Jenny said it's not a very wise thing to do, because developing courage is about going beyond your own capabilities. And that can only happen when you are connected to the Supreme, because Supreme is overtly capable of doing anything. And to such an entity, if you get connected, you can really do anything. But if you're all by yourself and you don't even know that you are this beautiful eternal energy, then courage will be too far a journey, and you really feel reckless and disturbed all the time. Another thing is mentioned as quotes, that faith and courage are very closely related to each other. So the quote is, faith is courage, while despair is always destructive. So someone is asking, can you explain this? So here actually, Sister Denise touched upon a few spiritual teachings in Brahma Kumaris, which we are routinely taught. It is about the 4 different kinds of faith. First is faith in the self. Second is faith in the Supreme, the divine connection which I have with the Supreme. Third is faith in the drama. When we say drama, it's here as Shakespeare used to say, that the entire world is full of drama, in the sense all of us are actors performing our own respective parts in life. So let us have perfect faith in each one's part, and let us not interfere in anyone's part, because it just finally damages me and I get disturbed. Because if someone else's part I don't like, I am disturbed. And fourth is the faith in the family. So family could be your immediate family at the home where you are living in, also your big spiritual family which you are connected to. So I think I should just stop here, because I have to go further and do welcoming for Sister Jenna. And what I'll do is I'll stop sharing the screen. And as usual, all of you are aware of Sister Jenna. She has been with us in the past. And as we speak, she's joining us today from Madhuban. So let me just welcome her with a beautiful poem, as I do always. Sister Jenna strikes this beautiful balance of the West and East, and she gives us this beautiful knowledge to us as a feast. These invaluable pearls from her are as if coming from a priest. And by inculcating that in our life, that's what we can do the least. Otherwise, it's like baking a bread without yeast. So let's convert ourselves into a beauty from the beast. And a few lines on courage, because that's the virtue we are speaking about today. So let's try to inculcate today the virtue of courage, which doesn't need you to be of a particular age. We all now have to keep working on our mental stage, so that for each other, we can be a source to encourage. Not having to, with each other, then fight and practice rage. Instead, practice harmony and be on the same page, can we? So that on this life journey, which sometimes feels like a mirage, and situations that can make you feel that you are in a triage, being stuck and caught up as if in a cage. Let us come out of this by practicing meditation as a sage, because the Supreme Almighty has shown me a new way for me to envisage. So I think with this, I'll just stop sharing. I have some problem in the system. I actually wanted to share Sister Jenna's new book. I think I can do that after her talk. I'll just tell you the link on americameditating.org. Can I just show that quickly right now, Sister Jenna? Is that okay? We can't hear you, apparently.
Sure, you can. You can share anything you want, Manoj Bhai. You're amazing.
Thanks. So as all of you know, that Sister Jenna is running these shows on americameditating.org. I'm just typing it because for some reason I'm having some problems in my system today. So please bear with me. And I'll just share the screen and show you all about the new book. All of you are encouraged to read it, and I think it's available online as well. My system is really a bit slow. I'm sorry for that. Please bear with me for that. And I'll just share the screen just a moment. Yeah.
I was just told it went #1 again in 2 categories, Manoj Bhai, in mysticisms and in New Age.
You mean to say on the web page of America Meditating?
No, it's gone #1 on Amazon.
Okay, yeah, right, got it. Yeah. So these are the 2 books you can see. I think it's the meditation, intimate experiences with the divine through deep contemplative practices. And the second one is mystical, which goes mainstream. That's what you were saying, yeah. So I would request all of you all to visit, and you all can also try to purchase it online from Amazon. Right, so too much of sharing from my side. I'll just stop sharing the screen and over to you for all your sharings on courage.
So give me a how long is my time, just an FYI?
So since you're in India, so I'll tell you in the Indian time. So it will be till 9:45. So exactly 1 hour, including the meditation time as well.
You want me to talk for 1 whole hour?
All yours, whatever you want to do with us.
Okay, I also sent you a link in your WhatsApp, which has two really powerful videos. One is entitled Sweet Divine, and the other one is Man Manabho. And I'm wondering if we could play Sweet Divine first and then the Man Manabho later. Om Shanti, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be. I just love the background. This is the image of Gyan Sarova of the Brahma Kumaris. Dr. Ashok Mehta, it's so good to see you. It is so good to see you. And why are you not here in Mount Abu with me? But nonetheless, huh?
In March first week, I'm going to be with.
Okay, then I'll see you because I leave on the 17th. Okay. Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, good. So I'm here, and after listening to all the points on courage that our divine, amazing brother Manoj shared from Sister Denise, I thought to myself, well, what in the world am I going to share now? I thought that everything was already said. Didn't you think that, Alika? I mean, everything is said about courage. And I guess as I was listening to all the powerful points of courage that we've learned from, what was coming in my mind is my mother, that's been such an example on many levels. And even sometimes when I even still talk to her, I wonder why I get a little bit, moved by her narrative, because I've been just witnessing courage in this soul for all of my life. So let's start with the story. And I think I'd like to lead into a song with our connection to Baba, to God, Allah, Jehovah. And maybe somebody out there today will find the courage to do something they've always wanted to do. And it fascinates me how fear and courage go hand in hand. It's something that Anu was sharing earlier, that it is the fear in the heart that actually breeds the courage, that you have to do this. When Daddy Janki sent me to Washington, D.C., I remembered there was a very top official at the White House at the time who had a very intriguing role in the White House. And he used to come to the meditation center. And in those days, the meditation center was this simple little old house. It was 9913 Georgia Avenue. And it was the most powerful space you'll ever enter into. And I'm not quite sure what it was that the divine God used to do through me, but it didn't matter that this house was old and rickety on Georgia Avenue. I just had this feeling in my heart that there's a need for an awakening of a connection to God, to source, to the divine. And because of that anchor, that priority, that faith that I had, it made me go through every situation that you would say that was impossible for someone to actually survive it or deal with it. So it is such a profound virtue, courage. And I think when I look at my mother, she has revealed to me what real spiritual innate courage is. So imagine, what would you do? You're born in a developing country in Jamaica, and at the age of 7, you're orphaned. Your parents go off on a train to a religious retreat on a train ride. And she tells me the story as much as she can. And while she was laying in bed, she had a vision that her mother was flung from the train and that she had died, but she was only 7. But days had passed by and she had not seen her mother. And then finally neighbors had realized what had happened. And so my mother was asked at 7 to identify the body of her mother. So when she went to the site where the train accident had happened, it was called the Kendall train crash. And at the time, it was the largest tragedy or disaster that had taken place in those days. It was in September 1, I think, 1950, 51 or something like that. So there's a picture that I found from an author, Beverly East, who wrote a book on this train crash. And Beverly lost 14 family members in that train crash. But in the book, which is called Reaper of Souls, was turning to a page, and on that page was a little girl standing amongst all of these dead bodies. There were over 600 dead bodies from this train accident. 2 days, they couldn't even remove all the bodies. They were just there. And that little girl had to go to look for her mother in that rubble. Isn't that amazing? And what I've noticed with the soul is that must have been one of the most tragic experiences a person could go through at such a young age. And all I can say is watching her growing up, it's been such an interesting scene of, at the time, it's not like I knew the language or anything, but that must have been so traumatic. And I could see this soul who would do the best that she could just to do life, to do whatever she needed to do to get to the next step in her journey. But when she came to the Brahma Kumaris, I witnessed a miracle. I witnessed the soul somehow finding the courage to let go of the devastation of that trauma and replace it with remembrance of God's love. Now, I want to emphasize how important what I'm about to say will be. So she has that trauma and that tragedy recorded in the soul. She doesn't know what to do with it. Imagine all the various elements of fears she walked into on a day-to-day life. No mother, no father, orphanages after orphanages, abandonment, abuse. This soul would walk into every scene uncertain of what will come out of it. Every day. I've thought about that. But when she came to the Brahma Kumaris, it was like there was something that happened in her consciousness when the energy of what we call Baba or God's light just entered her being. It was like somehow she made space for healing to happen in her. Somewhere, somehow she made space for love to enter. Somehow she made space to find a way to forget that horrible time in her life. So what I watched after she came into her spiritual practice of meditation with the Brahma Kumaris, she became very quiet, very introspective, as if she was taking now the mantle of God's light or power into the portal, into the journey of her soul, with no more having the fear of feeling that she was alone in navigating whatever her life meant. And so I watched her for the first year. I saw an enormous amount of light come over her. I watched her for the next maybe 2 or 3 years. People would just envision her as a saint or a deity or an angel. I watched her uplift and inspire thousands of people. And I watched her having that little corner where the fear and the trauma still existed. Now, this is a woman who should have ended up on the streets, who should have ended up with nothing. She definitely should not have had a child like me and raised me with such value and such strength of conviction. But she did. She did. So what was the courage that she had that could, bypass everything, that would come into her life to say, either you can't do it, you're not good enough, this will never happen for you, don't expect anything grand coming out of your existence. What was that courage that that woman held on to? And I would say it's God's love. Honestly, I'll tell you. And I think every one of us have this space. I think every human being has this special area in the soul that's carved with this energy of God's love in them to give them the courage to navigate through any challenge that they go through. I'm sure Alika can understand what I'm saying. I'm sure Dr. Mehta is understanding what I'm saying. I'm sure Brother Arun that shared his story, where you come across certain conflict of values, ethics. And it's not just when you meet a person and you feel afraid of their presence. It's not just that. It's that maybe there's a conflict of the energy of value or ethics that is emerging as a result of being in front of this person. It's not necessarily the person, but it's something deeper in you that you're now finding is of conflict or discomfort or maybe fear. So I would watch this soul my whole life. I'm almost 60 now. And I've watched this woman who now has dementia and is staying here at the assistant living space at Shiv Mani. She quietly sits inside of her soul. Quietly. It's as if she finds a place inside where she feels safe. And that space is a connection between the soul and of God. I am so certain that her courage comes from that. It doesn't come from the broken pieces of her childhood. It didn't come from the abandonment, the abuse, the neglect. It didn't come from being tossed around in different orphanages with no adult supervision to protect you. Something else came from her that was something connected to source. So when I look at the virtue or the value of courage, I look at souls with an innate relationship and connection to Baba. There's no other way for courage to get in. You can talk your way in as much as you want to be brave, to step into a ring and fight a heavyweight champion, to step into a job that you feel like will test every bit of you. You can go to your boss for a raise as much as you want with your heart beating 1,000,000 miles a minute and not knowing if you're going to come out with the raise or not. But actually, maybe it's not the fear that you're walking in that room with or in that ring with. Maybe it's that flame of your unending, eternal love for God. And I'm not sure if it's ever been discussed in this context, because listening to the 4 Ps that Sister Denise laid out and all of the connections and explanations that she offered about, your courage is really based on your priority and your values. I think it's a flame of a remembrance of God that keeps us all able to have courage to do the things we think we cannot do. Sure, there are certain situations that you feel that you would like the courage to do it, but you don't think you can. But I can guarantee you there are many other situations where you found the courage to do it. Maybe it's not that one. Maybe that one I'm not ready. Maybe my courage isn't getting triggered in this area. But maybe my courage has been triggered in so many other areas that it has been innate in you to be courageous. It is innate in you to be courageous because 7.5 billion of us have a little flame of the recording of an intimate connection to the divine, to Baba, to God, to Allah, to Jehovah, to the light. And I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath and breathe out. I'd like to even invite you to close your eyes just for a moment and think about the many moments of courage you can remember. And in the meanwhile, maybe Brother Manoj can find the Sweet Divine video that I sent and play that whenever possible. But while your eyes are closed, can you recall all those times when courage showed up because you had no other option? And if you look at yourself really clearly, it's as if it was always with you. It was always with you, just waiting for the right moment to exercise its right. So let us see if we can have this connection to the sweet divine and go inside of your mind and inside of the being and celebrate all those times that you've been courageous. When you took that exam, when you drove on the roads in India, when you spoke to somebody who you knew didn't always have your best intentions, but you spoke to them anyway. Let us celebrate all those moments that we've had with the sweet divine.
Sweet divine, when we speak in deepest prayer, in the silence feel you there, like you're always so aware of me. In these conversations, you help me see the way. These conversations, my unique offering. These conversations, the healing that is mine to claim. Oh, sweet divine. Sweet divine, in your gaze I'm never alone. You lead me back to heart and home. Help me hear the truest tone of who I am. Sweet divine, even when I'm living asleep, forgotten how to listen deep, you find a way to sing to me through In these conversations, you help me see the way. These conversations, my unique offering. These
Mhm. Om Shanti. Wasn't that a beautiful song? I'd love to see your heart emojis on the boxes if you think it was. Kristen Hoffman, I had met her at a expo in California, and I was sitting on a panel of psychics. And I remembered telling Antonia, who makes my schedulings and everything, why did you put me on the panel with psychics? I don't know these things. I don't do these things. And in that workshop was Kristen Hoffman. And I remembered the panelist was talking about beds are shaking and things are flying all over the place. And I just simply kind of leaned into the panelists that were on the the dais with me. And I said to them, I'm so sorry, but there are no flying beings around me and my bed's not shaken. But but I believe that the real issue of the five vices, algae, anger, lust, greed, attachment, and ego, that's really where we need to put our energy on. And it was from that program that I met Kristen Hoffman. And since we've been in connection, Kristen says, every time I'm in your presence, a song emerges from within me for God. And that was one of the songs that came up as a result of my latest book, Meditation, Intimate Experiences with the Divine. So beautiful, huh? So how did you feel? Put it in the chat box. How did you feel when you turned your attention behind your eyes and began to acknowledge that flame of God's presence in your soul, and that it's always been there, taking you through some of your toughest times? Did you find looking at courage from that perspective a little different for you? That my courage was coming from my flame of love for God, and it never left me? Please share in the chat box if you'd like, and I could just, I can look for it. Deepa, it was a peaceful song, I know. But in terms of when you turned inwards and you were looking at all the times that you've been courageous, if you really looked deep inside of the soul, didn't you see God's light there, that flame that really pushed you into that told you it's going to be okay, that you were going to make it, that you were going to be protected, that it was going to be better? And so looking at the word courage and the value of courage, it is such a deep connection to the source. The flame of fear got extinguished, Seema said, doesn't it? So that means everything that you think you cannot do, now that you know that courage is innate in you because you've always had that flame of God's love recorded in you, and there's nothing you can't face. Let's talk about these little situations that come up in relationships. Let's say a situation that You don't necessarily feel you have any negative or bad thoughts about a person, but you feel uncomfortable when you go in front of that person. Have you ever had that experience? Yes or no? You go in front of a person, and for some reason your heart doesn't feel safe. You ever had that feeling with somebody, or once or twice, maybe a mother-in-law? But it's like you just feel that what's going to come from the connection with this person is something negative. Has anyone ever had that? So you come in front of this person. You don't think you've had any bad thoughts about the person, but when you're in front of them, you don't feel safe. And for some reason, that little tongue that's only 2 or 3 inches long cannot speak the words you wish to speak to that person with compassion and respect. Either it goes silent, or it yells, or it says something that makes no sense. Why? Did you forget the flame? Did you forget there's a little flame that is consistently lit in you? And that no matter what you say or do with that person, if you come from that flame of courage, which is your connection to God, to Baba, that it will be okay. So identify the feeling in front of the person. It hurts. It feels bad. I don't feel like myself with you. I wish you wouldn't make this relationship so hard. I wish I could like you. I wish I could feel safe with you. Did you forget the flame? Because the flame will give you the courage to bypass whatever that energy is and say, here's what I'm trying to say. Because the courage is that I come from that flame. Now the flame could be this tiny, or could be this tiny, could be this tiny, or the flame could be this big. And the bigger the flame of God's remembrance and love, or Baba's connection in the soul, you're like a walking courage mobile. And it's like everywhere you go with your courage mobile, you not only inspire someone to believe in themselves, but you strengthen your own belief in yourself. That little flame can do wonders. So this is going to make you laugh maybe because it's silly. It's very silly, but I don't know how many of you are like afraid of like frogs or rats. You're so big, right? Even like a cockroach. We don't have cockroaches much, at least where we are in America, but we do have frogs and we do have rats. Now, there's a brother of ours, and there was one little baby rat like this tiny. He's a big brother. And I'm like, you got to get that rat out of here. You have to move it because I'm scared. He's scared. Both of us are forgetting the flame. And that little rat is just having the time of his life because he's recognizing these 2 big people have no idea that they have a flame, and they can just pick up my little tail and click me out. And a lot of times when I see myself forgetting even the flame in such a little situation, like a little mouse, or a little, maybe a cockroach, or a little frog, or a little thing, that I don't remember that no matter what I do, that flame will never go out. And it's like I forget that flame is always lit in me. And I just have to turn to it. A lot of people call you names. And one of the names that I've heard people call me, a lot of names, but one has been, "You're so courageous, Jenna Ben." I'd always say that to me. Never really quite understood why. I was only using the flame. But they would always say to me, "Jenna Ben, you're so courageous. And you're so courageous in your service and what you do." I didn't understand because it was just a flame. If the flame said, "Let's take this exam, let's run a hospital, let's help a child, a woman have a baby and not have her pass away, let's go into a new career, let's study, let's move to a new country, let's get onto a spiritual path without fear," because that flame is in me and it never gets extinguished. So I invite you to look at your courage factor, which is the flame of God's impression, unending presence in you. And I guarantee you, if I ask you to write down how many events in your life that flame has taken you through, I bet you the paper would be filled. You wouldn't even know where to stop. Your first day in school, the flame that takes you on a flight. Every time I fly, I go, how in the world did they put a metal object in the sky? And why in the world would I sit in this metal object in the sky? It's the flame. Because common sense is we really shouldn't be taking those things there. It's a metal object in the sky. I can't fly, and I'm lighter than the plane. The flame. Your courage comes from your flame. And my mother, Sister Gita, has been living with her flame for almost 40 years. And even though she has dementia today and makes no sense, the flame is not hidden. It takes a lot of love for the flame to live inside out and to live from the world behind your eyes and to find comfort in that world of silence. Your courage is connected to your flame. And it's in every one of us. And the only time you feel insecure or afraid is when you do the silliest thing of wetting your finger and putting out the light of that. Or you go inside of your head and you put out that flame by ignoring its existence in you. Biggest mistake we've made. So what? The world, I'm told, and maybe I see and I hear a lot of people tell me their stories. The world is rampant with fear because everyone's forgotten they have the flame carved inside of them. And everyone's focused on what this happened, this is going to happen, this shouldn't have happened. Did you know what happened to me? I tried this job opportunity and it was a disaster. And all this time, this flame was there, seeing me through life in every shape, form, and size. When my parents were BKs, you know, I was 17 when they came to the Brahma Kumaris. And I was so sure this was not my path. I was like, there's no way I could ever become so holy and so sweet and so charitable and so strong. Only to find out that when I was given the introduction that I, the soul, am immortal, eternal, imperishable, and the original nature of my existence is pure, is peace, is love. Boy, that sparked me right up. And then to think that by having that understanding and connecting it to the awakening that my flame of God's remembrance is available to me, that did it, everyone. That was it. I realized that that flame has never left me. I just turned my back on the flame. And I replaced it with a little frog, a little cockroach, or a mother-in-law, or a job. You go into these job assignments and you're so scared of dealing with this new job because a whole bunch of new staff, and you've got to learn all these new programs, and you've got to learn your job, and the flame is there. Well, why are you worried? I'm right here. You're going to do it. And we put all this weight and energy into being flameless. It's just so interesting. So let us connect to the internal flame inside. And take a deep breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in again. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Feel your attention turning towards the world behind your eyes. Just you, the immortal, infinite, eternal, and imperishable being of light, is within you, behind your eyes. So subtle. If you were to try to see your inner being with your two physical eyes, you'd never be able to see it. Maybe you could understand and recognize that there is an energy that has joined this body. There's an energy that entered the body. And when the energy entered the body, it gave it personality, character. It gave you choice. And so in this awareness, let myself just appreciate the flame that has been eternal in me. That flame of God's love and light wells up inside of me. And my courage simply increases. The more I turn my attention to the flame, the more courage there will be. So based on how you're feeling right now, I'd like you to imagine that you've taken the costume of your body and you've basically sort of taken it off and put it at the corner of your room. And only your spark of light exists. No longer does your body exist. Are you scared? Or is the flame still lit? Who are you? The flame, the light of God's love? Or the body that is in the corner of the room just sitting there with no personality, no character? Because the soul is not there. Now gently bring the soul back into the body and watch how the body comes back to life, carrying the personality and the character through the expression of the body. Observe the way the soul will interact with a loved one. It's not from the body, but it's from the energy of the soul, what is recorded in you. And that flame, if you can connect to the flame in another member of your family, it's called power. It's called truth. And it could be also called love. To connect your flame to another. So it's interesting that when you see the difference between the body versus the flame and the light that you are, many times we get afraid because we're thinking more of what will happen to my body. Wrinkles, weight, physical ailment. Maybe I don't think I look like everybody else. Maybe finances, maybe the house that I live in, they're trying to take it away from me. Maybe the car is breaking down. Maybe the business deal went bad. And all of those thoughts and realities, instead of using the flame, you turned your back to the flame and you only thought of the physical needs. And your courage got less. And your fear got more. Tell the truth. Didn't that happen? Every time you go in front of your in-law and you want to speak to them with grace and respect and clarity and love, instead you put aside the flame and you adopt with the body. I'm the daughter-in-law, I'm the son-in-law, that's my mother-in-law, that's my father-in-law. I have to treat them like this. All of those thoughts, flameless. So your heart can pound as much as it wants. And it can let everything in here become so confusing and so mixed up. Because what you're asking for is something infinite and eternal, respect and love and peace and purity. And yet you're coming from it from a very limited perspective. My body, the awareness of the body. I am the daughter-in-law, she should love me. That's the mother-in-law, I can't get her upset. But hop out of the body, and sometimes throughout the day, just take your body and put it at the side of a room and watch your flame. And before you talk to the boss, before you talk to your colleagues, before you talk to a relative at home, let the flame find a flame in the other person. That's courage. That is courage. To identify your flame and the flame of another, despite however and whatever they're doing to you, they're doing to themselves. And your flame just might help them. That's my definition, everyone, of courage. That's what I know has brought me through all the wonderful opportunities that I've been given. And I know with all my heart that flame of God's love brought my mother through the most darkest incarnation a child could be born into. And that flame saved that woman. And that flame protected me and grew me. And that flame has awakened thousands of others. Let your flame of courage go to work. Let your flame of courage speak to your loved one who perhaps you haven't spoken to all week. Let the flame of courage just turn to your loved one and you just say, Om Shanti, from your flame, without any expectation your loved one is going to react or not. Just Om Shanti and move on. That's your courage at work. Let the flame of your courage come into your finance, into your relationships, into your health, and into keeping your mind positive. What was it that Denise' sister was saying? Faith in the self, faith in God, faith in drama, and faith in not just your immediate family, but the human family. Bring the flame in all these areas and watch the wonder. So in this next video, which is entitled Man Mana Bhav, it's in honor of Shivratri and the coming of the energy of God's light to remove the suffering in the mind, man. This thing up here. It's so attached to so many things that are flameless. And Baba says, would you stop? I'm right here. Use me. So let's take a moment and enjoy this video. And I hope everyone can see the video and just sink into the vibration of it as it goes into full screen mode. And think about your little flame that is traveling with you and helping you. Happy Mahashiv Jayanti, everyone. Wasn't that beautiful? Okay, so I'll pause here. And Manoj Bhai, I hope I didn't ramble on too much, but it was just so important for me to just turn courage around, because Denise Ben had done all the great needful things. But when I look at courage in myself, it has been this little flame in me that has not extinguished. And we all have it.
Right. Thank you so much. So from today's talk, let's all work on our inner flame. And I just can't stop saying this, so I have to say this 4 lines and stop all the blame game, because each of one is actually the same. And it's in my hands, the status to claim, and then I don't desire any name and fame. And I stop giving excuses which are indeed very lame. So thank you so much. A lot of praises for you, Sister Jenna, in the chat box as well. And quite a few questions I think you have answered as well. So we don't have time for more questions. But I would now request all our seniors, Dr. Ashok Mehta and Sister Claudia, to propose the vote of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Mehta, first.
What do I say?
Nothing.
I'm spellbound to say anything. So beautiful. I am a great lover of Jenna Ben. I've always found her a totally different person than normally whom we meet. I've had the privilege of meeting her in Virginia, in her new house at that time. And I had the pleasure of going to the house with her and meet the chairman of the house. Amazing the way she handles those VIPs. Amazing. That's her courage, the inner flame. I've seen Geeta Ben also from close quarters. She's also unique. So you have a unique mother and a daughter. And of course, Baba's children. Thank you very much, Jenna Ben, for taking us on a different trip altogether. Discard the body and look at the flame. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Ashok Bhai. See you soon.
So, thank you, both of you. Over to Sister Claudia now. Yeah.
Good morning from us. Good evening from you. Was very nice to hear you again, and also your courage when you talk about your own life. And we can see where your courage in this life came from the background of your mom. So it shows, because when the parents has courage, the kids also learn with them. So, and when you had that little talk, I always tell myself, I never got scared of anyone. Whoever comes in front of me, I never get scared, but I did not know why. Now you kind of say, it's my soul who has that flame there. So when early in life, I bought one apartment right on the beach without money. And I used to say, how did I do these things in my life? Many things, if we go back, we see where the flame is. It's kind of nice just to realize. And you made me to realize, because sometimes I say, why I have no scare. It can be whoever comes. Nobody can scare me, but I did not know where that power was coming. So today you kind of made me realize that is the flame in the soul who has that power that comes from many other lives and keep us the courage moving. And also I think for the parents too, because we learned that from the parents like you did. My mom was also very strong. So I can see. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Claudia. And thank you, Manoj Bhai, for inviting me back and sharing. And I'm so glad that today worked out, because I just came in from Washington 2 days ago, and I called Manoj Bhai and says, I don't know if I'm actually going to make it because it's going to be a lot, and I'm settling Sister Geeta in. And today we had such a long day up the hill at Gansarova, Pandav Bhavan, Global Hospital, Shivratri, and I took all the little babies with me. And by the time I came back, it was like 5:30 and I was absolutely tired. And so I laid down for a little bit and I set the clock to alarm, and I was like, there's no way Manoj Bhai is going to see me today because I'm out. But sure enough, the clock went out. The clock alarmed, and I just got my eyes up and I says, courage. I'm going to need a lot of courage to show up tonight. So my little flame pushed me through today, and I'm so glad it did. So thanks everybody, and lots of love, and don't let that flame go. It's in every one of us. Don't let it out.
Thank you so much. So it was the courage of your conviction. That's great. Can we just quickly do the announcements in the next few minutes, and then we'll take a photograph, just a few more minutes. So all of you are aware that tomorrow is the last day of the month. I mean, the last Sunday, actually, I mean to say. So we usually do the silence retreat. So I'm sure you have a lot of food for thought now after discussing about the flame. So let's ignite this through the silence retreat on courage tomorrow. For India time, it's morning, and West Coast is 7:30. I won't be going on each slide in detail. We have next two values. First one is on perfection, and the second on cleanliness. You know, Holi is coming up. So a lot of talk about purity we have done last month, or last year, I'm sorry. So now there's much something about cleanliness, which is the next value after perfection. We have our respected brother Bijmohan Bhai Sahab. He's also like Sister Jenna, all the time ready to do our talks. And as we are continuing our journey in the powers, the second power is power to pack up or let go. In Hindi we say Samaitne ki Shakti, excuse me. So we have with us a very yogi brother Atam Prakash Bhai, and his name itself suggests that he always is in soul consciousness. And it was a big public demand that we want to hear him on this power. So that will be on Sunday, 6th March. Then we have another senior sister talking during the workshop on perfection. That will be the week after. And this is a beautiful, elegant calendar, which we'll be rolling out to you soon in our invitations and in our emails when you get all the review materials, which we'll be sharing soon. Thank you so much once again, all of you as well. And we'll have a quick photograph, Anu sister, because many people are requesting. Yeah.
Yes, we'll have a quick picture with a beautiful background picture with Sister Jenna. It's double powerful. And thank you, Sister Jenna, for igniting our connection with the flame. Everybody is experiencing that. Okay, everyone.
Oh,
open up your video if you want to be in the video. This is the time. Sorry, the photograph, and we'll share it. Okay, just give me 1 second. Thank you once again for this very empowering session, Sister Jenna, and thank you everyone for being here with us today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.